So look, I'm just going to say this based on nothing other than it's being a bee in my bonnet all day. Never be scared of talking about Zionism. Never, ever be put off talking about Rothschild Zionism. Because somebody who is ignorant or who is uninformed calls you racist or anti-Semitic. Never bow down to that. Remind people that, as David Icke went to great lengths in a terrific discussion with me last week, as he said, it is a secret society. Zionism is a political ideology, and you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. You know, Zionism claims to have the best interests of Israelis and Jewish men and women at the heart of their agenda. They don't. You know, Jewish men and women the world over are as much as much victims of Zionism and the agenda as anybody else is. You know, it's important to understand that, and it's important to say that to people. It's also important to mention that hundreds of thousands of Jewish men and women around the world regularly protest against Zionism. They couldn't be further apart, the two ideologies. The religious ideology of Judaism on the one hand, and the racist, evil, disgusting Zionist ideology on the other hand. They are worlds apart. The Rothschild banking dynasty, I've said this probably 100,000 times since I began talking about this myself, and I only began talking about it because I learned from the research of learned men and women. The Rothschild banking dynasty created Israel, paid for everything. Every state building in Israel paid for by the Rothschild banking cartel. And I've always said this, what I've learned, and I didn't take what other people had said and regurgitate it. I didn't do that. I looked at the evidence presented by other people over the years and used my own pretty decent research skills to look it up and to cross-reference what I was being told by people. And what I found was the people I was reading were 100% right on the state of Israel, why the state of Israel came into being, what the Balfour Declaration was really all about and all of that. You see, Rothschild Zionism, I've always believed, since I came to understand it, hides in Israel, but hides in plain sight and hides behind the plight of the Jewish people. It cloaks itself in a kind of a security blanket where it can't be criticised because it hides behind the plight of the Jewish people and, of course, what happened before, during and after, particularly during the Second World War. Rothschild Zionism is behind every conflict, every war in the world, and is the driving force, in my opinion, behind the global depopulation agenda. It's got nothing to do with Jewish people. I'm going to repeat again, Jewish men and women are as much victims of it as anybody else. And if you talk about it, as we've seen in this country and in others, well, you hate Jews, don't you? You're using code words. You're saying Zionists to hide your hatred of the Jews. This is garbage. It's utter garbage. The world we live in is run by the Rothschild Zionist cartel, including the banking families of Rockefeller, Oppenheimer, Warburg and others. It really is. It really, really is. Take that to the bank, no pun intended. It's the greatest open secret in the world. These are the financiers who manipulate everything. Every global event, everything that's in the news. They own the news. Paul Craig Roberts said it earlier. They fund lunatic dictators like the Saudi Wahhabis, who fund both sides of every election. Not the Saudi Wahhabis, the lunatic, the Rothschild Zionists. And David has often said over the years that Israel is their fiefdom. It is. It's where they hide. Behind that, as I said already, that security blanket. Well, we can't be exposed because we'll call anybody who questions us a racist. Again, we will say they hate Jews. They hate Jews. They subscribe to and they propagate and they spin out age-old conspiracy theories about the Jews. But we don't. We don't. But never let the truth get in the way of a good lie. I think David said on the programme last week, I could play the clip, but I'm running out of time. Jewish Americans are less than 2% of the population of America. Most of them are not Zionists. And yet, look at how many avowed Zionists are scattered around the Obama, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, and even the Reagan administrations. Look at them. How many of them? If you want to take Obama alone on his own, Rahm Emanuel, David Axelrod, George Soros, Henry Kissinger, Tim Geithner, Larry Summers even, Rothschild Zionists, the Fed, the private bank, not run by the government, which most people aren't aware of. Nobody knows this stuff outside of those who get their information from the independent media. The government doesn't run the bank. It isn't in control of finance and money printing and money distribution. It's a private bank, the Federal Reserve, run by the New York crime families. Mentioned them already. Rothschild, Warburg, Oppenheimer, and the rest of them. Ben Bernanke, Alan Greenspan, Federal Reserve Chairman, Zionists. Why? Why the takeover of the US government by agents of the Rothschild banking crime family? Why? Simple: to control policy and manipulate events. To protect against this becoming knowledge, you need to have a cover story. So they use the Holocaust industry. Read Norman Finkelstein's book, Norman's Family Were Murdered by the Nazis in Auschwitz. They've taken the tragedy of the barbarous, murderous, lunatic Nazi death camps, and they have dined out on it and used it to justify the murder, torture, destruction of Gaza, the detention of children, the torture of children. Any criticism of the Israeli government or criticism of the behaviour of the IDF becomes anti-Semitism. This is where the bastards hide. The bastards being Rothschild Zionists. They own the media. You heard Paul Craig Roberts earlier on. General Electric, News Corp, Time Warner. And boy, they were talking about Rothschild Zionists, not the Jews. There are lazy, ignorant bastards in the independent media who blame everything on the Jews. They know no different. They are ignorant bastards. They're not racist. They're just ignorant. They don't understand what Zionism is. War, genetically modified foods, mandatory vaccination, Zionist. Transhumanist agenda, Zionism. To further remove people from reality and the reality of their agenda. Listen to David Icke on this programme 10 days ago talking about virtual reality. Jews and Judaism has nothing to do with it. Jews, as much as Muslims, Sikhs, Native Americans, Aussies, Spaniards, Italians, Paddies, are as much victim as anybody else, but they will use the media, the Zionists will, to tell you that it's racism. Because we mean Jews. We hate Jews. We want to eliminate Jews. What a load of monumental bollocks. They're going to try and define anti-Semitism here to prevent criticism of Zionism. We covered on Sunday View the attempt to destroy the career of Alan Duncan. Caught by the balls. I'm going to shut up now and I'm going to get out of the programme.